I'm Margaret Hartley, 68 years old. The thought of sleeping with that fat pig makes me sick. Those were the exact words I heard my son-in-law Richard Torres say about my daughter Claire just 20 minutes before their wedding ceremony. He and his groomsmen laughed like it was the funniest joke they'd ever heard. My beautiful daughter, the child I raised alone after her father died, the girl I had sacrificed everything for, was about to marry a monster, and she had no idea. I stood frozen in that hallway outside the groom's preparation room, my blood running cold, my hands shaking with a rage I had never felt before. But then I smiled, a cold, calculated smile, because I was about to get the last laugh. I made a noise to lure him out of that room, and what I did next would destroy him completely and save my daughter's life. But before we continue, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love to know how far our stories reach. I need to tell you about my daughter Claire before I tell you how close I came to losing her forever. Claire is my only child, my miracle, my entire world. Her father, Thomas, died when she was just 6 years old, heart attack at 34. One minute he was laughing at breakfast, the next he was gone. Just like that. And I was left alone with a first grader who kept asking when Daddy was coming home, and I had to figure out how to be both mother and father, how to pay the mortgage, how to keep food on the table, how to make sure my baby girl never felt the poverty that was clawing at our door. I worked 3 jobs for years. I was a secretary during the day, cleaned offices at night, and on weekends I started making food for people's parties. Little by little, that weekend catering turned into something bigger. I built Hartley's Fine Catering from nothing. From making sandwiches in my tiny kitchen to owning the premier catering company in our city. We serve every major event. Weddings, corporate galas, charity fundraisers. We're booked solid 2 years in advance. The business is worth $3.2 million now. Every penny of it built on my sweat, my tears, my sleepless nights. And I did it all for Claire, so she could go to good schools, so she could go to college without debt, so she would never have to work 3 jobs like her mother did, so she would never feel less than anyone else because of money. But here's the thing about my beautiful girl. She always felt less than. Not because of money, because of her body. Claire has struggled with her weight her entire life. Even as a little girl, she was bigger than the other kids. And children are cruel. They called her names. Fat Claire, Chubby, Whale. I can't tell you how many nights I held her while she cried. How many times I told her she was beautiful, that her body was just her body and her heart was what mattered. I spent 17 years building up her confidence, brick by brick, telling her she was worthy, she was lovable, she was enough exactly as she was. By the time she was 30, Claire had built a decent life. She worked as an event coordinator, she had friends, she seemed happy, but I could always see it in her eyes, that little flicker of insecurity, that voice in her head telling her she wasn't good enough, pretty enough, thin enough. And then she met Richard Torres. It was at a charity gala 2 years ago. One that my company was catering, actually. Richard was there as a guest, some big-shot real estate developer, or so he said. Handsome, charming, well-dressed, he made a beeline for Claire, started talking to her, complimenting her, asking for her number, and I watched my daughter's face light up in a way I hadn't seen in years. Someone like him was interested in someone like her. That's what I saw in her eyes. Hope, validation, proof that she was worthy of love. I wanted to be happy for her. I tried to be happy for her, but something about Richard bothered me from the start. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. He was always polite to me, always called me Mrs. Hartley, always complimented my food, always said the right things. But there was something in his eyes, something cold behind the charm, something calculating. And the way he talked to Claire. In public, he was attentive, affectionate, but I noticed little things, little comments. "Are you sure you want dessert, babe?" You've been so good this week. Maybe we should hit the gym together this weekend. That dress is nice, but maybe something more fitted would be better, always said with a smile. Always said like he was helping her. But I saw what he was doing. He was slowly, methodically tearing down the confidence I had spent decades building up. I tried to talk to Claire about it once, about 6 months before the wedding. Gently, carefully. Sweetheart, does Richard make you feel good about yourself? Does he make you feel beautiful? And she looked at me like I was crazy. Mom, he's the first man who ever really wanted me. He chose me. Do you know how that feels? And there was something desperate in her voice, something that scared me. But what could I say? I had no proof. Just a mother's instinct. Just a feeling in my gut that something was wrong. So the wedding was planned. $150,000 wedding. I paid for all of it. Every single penny. Because that's what mothers do. The dress alone cost $8,000. Custom made. Claire looked like a princess in it. My baby girl was getting married, and even though something felt wrong, I tried to be happy. I tried to believe I was being overprotective, that I was seeing problems that weren't there because I didn't want to lose my daughter. The wedding was set for the Sterling Manor, the most beautiful venue in the city, and of course, Hartley's fine catering was handling all the food. I insisted. I wanted everything to be perfect for Claire. I wanted her day to be magical. So that Saturday morning, I woke up at 4 a.m. to oversee everything personally. The flowers, the food, the table settings, every single detail. I was running on pure adrenaline and mother's love. By 11 a.m., the venue was transformed. 200 guests would be arriving soon. The ceremony was at 2 p.m. Everything was ready, almost too perfect. I was in my mother of the bride dress, a elegant navy blue, nothing too flashy. I didn't want to take attention away from Claire. This was her day. I went to the bride's room to check on her, and she was radiant, absolutely radiant. Her hair was up, her makeup was perfect, and that $8,000 dress fit her like it was made by angels. She was glowing. Mom, I'm so happy, she said, hugging me carefully so she wouldn't mess up her dress. I can't believe I'm really getting married. That someone like Richard really wants to spend his life with me. And my heart broke a little at those words. Someone like Richard, as if he was doing her a favor, as if she should be grateful. But I pushed it down. I smiled. I told her she looked beautiful. I told her I loved her. And I left her with her bridesmaids so I could do a final check on the catering setup. That's when it happened. The moment that changed everything. I was walking down the back hallway of the venue, the service corridor where we store supplies, looking for extra champagne flutes because I thought we might need more. The hallway was quiet. Most guests hadn't arrived yet. And that's when I heard it. Loud, male laughter coming from the groom's preparation room. The door was slightly open, just a crack, and I could hear every word. Richard's voice. I recognized it instantly. Loud, confident. I'm telling you guys, I don't know how I'm going to get through tonight. Just thinking about it, having to sleep with that fat pig, already makes me sick. I froze. My hand was still on the champagne box I'd been carrying. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Did I hear that right? Did he just call my daughter a fat pig? And then his groomsmen, his friends, burst into laughter. Loud, cruel, mocking laughter. And one of them, his best man, I think, said, "Dude, come on, it can't be that bad. Just close your eyes and think of England." More laughter. "No, seriously," Richard continued. And his voice was so casual, so matter-of-fact. The only thing keeping me going is the fact that I'm about to get my hands on her mother's catering empire. Do you know that business is worth over $3 million? $3 million. And the old lady loves her daughter so much. Once Claire and I are married, once we have a kid or two, I'll be able to convince her to make me a partner. Maybe even sign it over completely to keep it in the family. My knees went weak. I had to lean against the wall to stay standing. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Another voice. Someone I didn't recognize. So you're really doing this just for the money? That's cold, man. Hey, I'll suffer through a few years, Richard said, and I could hear him taking a drink of something. Pop out a kid to seal the deal. Keep up appearances. Then divorce her ass and take half of everything. No prenup, remember? Claire didn't want one because she said she trusted me. Stupid fat bitch made it so easy. The laughter that followed was like knives in my heart. Each cruel sound was another stab. They were joking about it. This was entertainment to them. My daughter's life, her heart, her trust. It was all just a joke. You'll need a bottle of whiskey every night before bed, someone said. That's the only way you'll be able to do it. Just turn off the lights and think of the money, another voice added. Fat girls are so desperate anyway. She'll never suspect you're using her. She probably can't believe her luck that someone like you would even look at her. I thought I was going to vomit right there in the hallway. I pressed my hand to my mouth, fighting the nausea. This was Richard, the man my daughter was about to marry in 3 hours. The man she loved. The man she thought loved her. And he was in that room, laughing with his friends about how disgusting he found her, about how he was only marrying her for money, about how he was planning to use her and then throw her away. And then I heard another voice. Richard's cousin, I think. So once you get control of the business, we're still good to go with the plan, right? We flip it? Sell it to that restaurant group in Chicago? Split the profit? That's the plan, Richard confirmed. I give it 2 years max. Marry the cow, get my name on the business, sell it, divorce her, and I'm set for life. She'll be so embarrassed about the divorce, she'll probably just let me take whatever I want to make it go away quickly. The cruelty of it took my breath away. He had thought of everything, every angle. This was a calculated plan, a con. My daughter wasn't a bride to him. She was a mark, a target, a fat, desperate target who was so grateful for his attention that she'd never see it coming. I stood in that hallway for I don't know how long. Could have been 30 seconds. Could have been 5 minutes. Time stopped, and in that moment, I had a choice to make. I could burst into that room right then, scream at him, slap him, call him every name in the book. But what would that accomplish? He'd deny it, say I misheard, say I was a bitter old woman who didn't want to lose her daughter. And Claire, my sweet, insecure Claire, would believe him, because she wanted to believe him. Because accepting the truth would mean accepting that she wasn't worthy of real love, that the voice in her head telling her she wasn't good enough was right. No. If I was going to save my daughter, I needed proof. I needed witnesses. I needed something so undeniable that even Claire, in all her desperate need to be loved, couldn't dismiss it. So I made a decision. A cold, calculated decision. I picked up that champagne box and I dropped it. Hard. Let it crash to the floor. The sound echoed through the hallway. Glass didn't break because the flutes were wrapped, but it was loud enough. The laughter in the groom's room stopped instantly. "What was that?" someone said. Perfect. I arranged my face into a pleasant smile. The doting mother-in-law. And I waited. A few seconds later, the door opened wider, and Richard stepped out. He saw me there, bending down to pick up the champagne flutes, and his face shifted immediately into that charming smile I'd seen 100 times. "Mrs. Hartley, are you okay? Let me help you with that." He moved toward me like the perfect gentleman. I looked up at him, really looked at him. This monster who was about to destroy my daughter, and I smiled sweetly. "Oh, Richard, I'm so sorry. I'm just so nervous and excited. Big day. Everything okay in there? Do you boys need anything? More drinks? Food?" He laughed, that easy, confident laugh. "No, Mrs. Hartley, we're perfect. Just having one last toast before I marry your beautiful daughter. I'm the luckiest man in the world. Beautiful daughter. The same daughter he'd just called a fat pig. The same daughter whose body disgusted him. Beautiful." The word was poison in his mouth. I stood up slowly, still smiling. I looked him directly in his lying eyes. I just want to make sure everything is perfect for you today, Richard. Everything. This is such an important day. The beginning of the rest of your life. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. The threat buried under the sweetness. He just grinned. You're the best, Mom. Claire is so lucky to have you. He actually called me Mom. This man who was planning to steal everything from me and break my daughter's heart called me Mom. Oh, I'm the lucky one, I replied, still smiling. Having Claire is the greatest blessing of my life, and I would do absolutely anything to protect her. Anything at all. I let that hang in the air for just a second too long, but he was too arrogant to notice. He just patted my shoulder and went back into the room with his friends. I heard them laughing again as the door closed, laughing at me, at Claire, at what they were about to get away with. But they had no idea. They had absolutely no idea what I was about to do. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and texted Maria, my assistant manager who was helping coordinate the catering. Emergency. Need you now. Back hallway. Don't ask questions. Maria had been with me for 15 years. She was family. If there was anyone I could trust, it was her. She appeared 2 minutes later, concerned and confused. Margaret, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I grabbed her arm and pulled her further down the hallway, away from the groom's room. And I told her, quickly, quietly, what I had heard. Every word. By the time I finished, Maria's face was white with rage. That son of a... She started, but I cut her off. I need your phone. The new iPhone with the good recording capability, and I need you to deliver champagne to that room. Leave the phone recording, hidden in the flower arrangement on their table. Can you do that? Maria didn't hesitate. Absolutely. Those bastards. Poor Claire. She has no idea. Not yet, I said. But she will. Before she marries him, she will know exactly who he is. Maria handed me her phone. I set it to record and tucked it into the folds of a cloth napkin, then placed it carefully in the champagne bucket she was about to deliver. The phone was hidden, but the microphone was clear. Just put this on the table near where they're sitting. Tell them it's compliments of the bride's mother. Then get out. She nodded and headed to the groom's room. I watched from the hallway as she knocked, entered with that professional smile, said something cheerful, placed the champagne bucket with the hidden phone, and left. The whole thing took maybe 30 seconds, and then we waited. I stood in that hallway with Maria for 20 minutes. 20 minutes that felt like 20 hours. We could hear muffled voices from the groom's room but couldn't make out words. I prayed that the phone was picking it up. I prayed they would keep talking, keep incriminating themselves. Finally, Maria went back in to retrieve the champagne bucket, playing it off like she needed to refill it. She came back out with the phone and we ran to the service kitchen. I grabbed headphones and listened, and oh my God, it was all there. Every word, crystal clear. Richard talking about how disgusting he found Claire's body. Talking about the plan to take over my business. His cousin detailing how they'd already lined up buyers for the company. How they'd already calculated their profits. How stupid Claire was for not insisting on a prenup. How grateful she was that someone like him wanted her. How easy it was going to be. 20 minutes of pure, undeniable evidence. I stood in that kitchen with tears running down my face, listening to the man my daughter loved talk about her like she was nothing. Like she was garbage he was willing to wade through for a paycheck. Maria was crying too. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm going to stop this wedding, I said. And my voice didn't shake. It was cold, hard, determined. I'm going to save my daughter even if she hates me for it. But first, I needed to talk to Claire. I needed to try. Because if there was any chance at all that I could stop this without the public humiliation, I had to take it. For her sake. I sent the recording to my own phone, backed it up to cloud storage, made sure it was saved in 3 different places. This evidence was everything. Then I headed to the bridal suite. Claire was surrounded by her bridesmaids. They were laughing, fixing last-minute details. Someone was touching up her lipstick. She looked so happy, so radiant, so completely unaware that her world was about to implode. "Girls, could I have a moment alone with my daughter, please?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. They looked at each other, then at Claire, who nodded. "It's okay. Give us a minute." They filed out, and suddenly it was just me and Claire in that beautiful bridal suite. Her in that $8,000 dress, me with evidence of her fiancé's betrayal burning a hole in my phone. "Mom, what's wrong?" Claire asked immediately. "You look upset." I took a deep breath. "Sweetheart, I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. Can you do that?" She frowned. "Mom, you're scaring me. What is it?" I heard Richard talking, just now, in the groom's room. And Claire, he said terrible things. Terrible things about you. About why he's marrying you. Her face changed instantly. Defensive. Scared. "What are you talking about?" "He called you a fat pig, Claire. He told his friends that the thought of sleeping with you makes him sick. He said he's only marrying you to get control of my business, that he plans to divorce you in a few years and take half of everything. Baby, he doesn't love you. This is all a con." The color drained from Claire's face, then rushed back, red and furious. "How dare you? How dare you say that to me right now? On my wedding day." "Claire, I heard him." "No." She stood up, her voice rising. "You've never liked him. You've been weird about him from the beginning. You've been looking for reasons to ruin this for me. And now? Now, when I'm finally happy, when someone finally loves me, you come in here with lies." "They're not lies," I said, my voice breaking. "Claire, please. You have to believe me. I heard every word. He was laughing about it with his friends." "You misheard," she said, but there was desperation in her voice. "You took something out of context. Richard loves me. He tells me I'm beautiful. He makes me feel special. He's the first man who's ever really wanted me." And there it was, the core of it. She needed this to be real so badly that she couldn't let herself believe the truth. Because if Richard didn't really love her, then that voice in her head was right. She was unlovable. She was the fat pig he'd called her. "Sweetheart, listen to me." I tried again, moving toward her. "You are beautiful. You are special." But Richard doesn't see that. He sees a vulnerable woman he can use. "Please, please don't do this. I have proof. I recorded them talking. Let me play it for you." But before I could pull out my phone, Claire held up her hand. "Stop. Just stop. You want proof. Here's my proof. Richard has spent 2 years with me. 2 years. He didn't have to do that if he just wanted money. He could have asked you for a job. He could have tried to partner with you. But he fell in love with me. Me. And you can't stand it because you want to keep me dependent on you forever. You're jealous that I'm finally happy. You're jealous that someone else gets to love me." Her words hit me like physical blows. "Claire, that's not— Get out," she said, and her voice was shaking. "If you can't be happy for me, if you're going to make up lies about the man I love, then just get out. I don't want you here." "I'm your mother," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I love you. I'm trying to save you." "I don't need saving," Claire said, and she was crying too now. "I need you to leave me alone and let me be happy for once in my life. Please, just go." The bridesmaids had heard the raised voices. They came back in, led by Jessica, the maid of honor. "Everything okay in here?" Jessica asked carefully. "Mrs. Hartley was just leaving," Claire said, turning her back to me. "Weren't you, Mom?" I looked at Jessica. This young woman had been Claire's friend since college. She cared about her. Maybe she would listen. "Jessica, I need you to keep your phone on during the ceremony. Please." You'll understand why soon. Jessica looked confused but nodded slowly. I left that bridal suite with my heart in pieces. Claire wouldn't listen. She couldn't listen. She was so desperate to believe in this fairy tale that she couldn't see the monster standing beside her. So I was going to have to do what no mother ever wants to do. I was going to have to destroy my daughter's happiness to save her life. I found Father Kenneth, the priest who was performing the ceremony. He'd known our family for 30 years, baptized Claire, gave her first communion. He was a good man, a man who valued truth. "Father, I need to talk to you," I said, pulling him aside. "It's urgent." He looked at me with concern. "Margaret, what's wrong?" "You look distraught." "Father, if during a wedding ceremony you learned that the groom had evil intentions, that he was marrying the bride under false pretenses to steal from her family, what would you do?" His face became serious. "I would stop the wedding." "Margaret, what are you telling me?" "I'm telling you that Richard Torres is marrying my daughter as part of a con. He plans to steal my business and then divorce her. I have proof, a recording, and I need to know that when the time comes, when you ask if anyone objects, you'll let me speak, and you'll listen." Father Kenneth studied my face for a long moment. "You're absolutely certain?" "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." He nodded slowly. "Then I will trust you. And I will not sanctify a union built on deception. When the time comes, you speak your truth." The ceremony was about to begin. Guests were taking their seats. 200 people, all dressed in their finest, all here to celebrate love. Except there was no love, only lies. I took my seat in the front row. Mother of the bride, the position of honor. Maria sat beside me, her phone with the recording in her purse. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Every beat was screaming, "Stop this, stop this, stop this." The music started. The bridesmaids walked down the aisle one by one, then the flower girl. And then the doors at the back opened and there was Claire, my beautiful girl, glowing, radiant, walking down that aisle toward her doom. And she had no idea. She walked alone. Traditionally, the father of the bride walks her down the aisle, but Thomas had been gone for so long. I had offered to walk her, but we'd fought that morning, so she walked alone, each step taking her closer to Richard, who stood at the altar with that perfect smile, that lying smile. I clutched my rosary so hard the beads cut into my palm. I watched Claire reach the altar, watched her take Richard's hands, watched him look at her with what anyone else would think was love. But I knew better. I knew what he really thought of her. Fat pig. That's all she was to him. Father Kenneth began the ceremony. His voice was solemn. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." The words washed over me. I couldn't focus. All I could think about was what was coming. The moment when Father Kenneth would say those words, "If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace." And I would speak, and my daughter would hate me, but she would be safe. The ceremony continued. Readings from Scripture, Richard's vows. He spoke them perfectly. "I promise to love you, honor you, cherish you, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer." Such beautiful lies, such perfect, polished lies. Then, Claire's vows. And hearing her speak broke me. "Richard, you came into my life when I had given up on love. You made me feel beautiful. You made me feel worthy. You showed me that I deserved happiness. I promise to love you with everything I am for the rest of my life." She meant every word. Every single word. And he was standing there planning how to destroy her. Father Kenneth looked out at the congregation. "This is a sacred moment. Marriage is not to be entered into lightly. It is a covenant before God." He paused. His eyes briefly met mine. "If anyone has reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." The church fell silent, 200 people holding their breath. This was usually just a formality. No one ever actually objects. Except today. Today, someone did. I stood up. The sound of my movement seemed impossibly loud in that silence. Every head turned to look at me. Claire's face went white, then red, then white again. Richard's confident smile faltered. "I object," I said. My voice was shaking but loud enough for everyone to hear. "And I have proof why this marriage cannot happen." The church erupted. Gasps, murmurs. Someone said, "Oh my God." Claire took a step toward me. "Mom, no, don't do this." But Richard's mask was slipping. He looked at me with something close to panic. "This is ridiculous. She's just upset. She can't let go. Can we please just—" "Maria," I said, cutting him off. "Play the recording." Maria stood up, her phone in her hand. She'd already connected it to the portable speaker we'd brought for the reception music. She hit play, and Richard's voice filled the church. Crystal clear, unmistakable. The thought of sleeping with that fat pig already makes me sick. The church went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop, and then the recording continued. Every terrible word, every cruel laugh. The plan to steal my business, the mockery, the calculated manipulation. 20 minutes condensed to the worst 5 minutes. Every person in that church heard him call my daughter a fat pig. Heard him say he was only marrying her for money. Heard him planning her destruction. I watched my daughter's face. Watched the color drain away. Watched her grab the altar rail to stay standing. Her knees buckled, and 2 bridesmaids rushed to support her. She was sobbing. Not quiet tears. Loud, gasping sobs. The sound of a heart breaking. Richard tried. I'll give him that. He tried to salvage it. That's fake. She doctored that recording. This is illegal. You can't record people without consent. This is— But Father Kenneth stepped forward. His face was stern, disappointed. "Enough. I will not sanctify this union. This ceremony is over." Chaos. Absolute chaos. Guests were standing, shouting. Some were crying. Richard's parents looked mortified. Claire had collapsed to her knees in that $8,000 dress, surrounded by bridesmaids who didn't know what to do. I moved toward my daughter, pushed through the crowd, reached for her. "Claire, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I had to." But she pushed me away, hard. "How could you?" she screamed. "How could you do this to me? In front of everyone? Everyone heard that. Everyone knows what he said about me. You humiliated me. You destroyed me. I saved you," I said, but my voice was breaking. "Claire, he was going to—" "I don't care," she sobbed. "I don't care what he was going to do. You just made me a laughingstock in front of 200 people. They all heard him call me a fat pig. They all know no one really wants me. They all know I'm so desperate that I almost married someone who was using me. How am I supposed to live with that? How am I supposed to show my face in this town again?" I reached for her again, but Jessica, her maid of honor, stepped between us. "Mrs. Hartley, maybe you should go. She needs space." Space. My daughter needed space from me. The woman who had just saved her life. But she couldn't see that yet. All she could see was humiliation, pain, the destruction of her dreams. Richard was trying to leave, trying to slip out quietly with his groomsmen, but I wasn't done with him. "Where do you think you're going?" I called out. "You think you can just walk away from this?" He turned, and all the charm was gone. His face was twisted with rage. "You crazy bitch! I'll sue you for defamation, for ruining my reputation, for—" "Sue me," I said, and my voice was ice. "Please, sue me. Because I have lawyers too. And that recording proves fraud. Proves you intentionally manipulated my daughter to gain access to my business. Do you really want to go to court with that evidence?" He didn't answer, just grabbed his jacket and pushed through the crowd. His groomsmen followed. His parents stayed longer, trying to apologize, trying to explain they had no idea, but honestly, I didn't care. They could all leave. They could all disappear. All that mattered was Claire. But Claire wouldn't look at me, wouldn't talk to me. The bridesmaids formed a protective circle around her and took her back to the bridal suite. I tried to follow, but Jessica stopped me again. "She doesn't want to see you. I'm sorry, but she's asking for space." So I stood in that church, in my mother of the bride dress, while 200 guests filed out past me, some avoiding my eyes, some patting my shoulder, some thanking me, some looking at me with pity, some with judgment. And I stood there knowing I had done the right thing, the necessary thing, the thing no mother wants to do. I had broken my daughter's heart to save her life, and she hated me for it. The next few days were a nightmare. Claire went to stay with Jessica, wouldn't answer my calls, wouldn't respond to my texts. I tried everything. I sent flowers, I sent letters, I sent messages through Maria, through friends, through anyone who might get through to her. Nothing. Radio silence. And I was dying. Absolutely dying. Because I couldn't explain. Couldn't make her understand that I had no choice. That letting her marry Richard would have been so much worse than the humiliation of a stopped wedding. But she wouldn't listen. Meanwhile, I put Maria and my lawyer on Richard. I needed to know everything. Every detail of his life, his finances, his past. Because my instinct told me this wasn't the first time he'd done something like this. My lawyer's name is Daniel Chen. He's been handling my business legal matters for 20 years. Good man, smart man. When I showed him the recording and told him what happened, he didn't judge. He just got to work. Within 3 days, Daniel came back with information that made my blood run cold. Richard Torres wasn't a successful real estate developer. He was a failed one. He was $780,000 in debt. His business had collapsed 2 years ago, right around the time he met Claire at that charity gala. It wasn't coincidence. He had been at that gala specifically looking for targets, vulnerable women with family money, and Daniel found more. He found 2 other women, 2 other engagements, both called off at the last minute, both women with family businesses. One owned a small hotel chain. The other owned a chain of dry cleaners. In both cases, the women had discovered Richard's true intentions right before the wedding, but they'd stayed quiet, too embarrassed to expose what had almost happened, too ashamed to admit they'd been so easily fooled. Daniel contacted them, and after some convincing, they agreed to give statements. Statements about how Richard had pursued them, gained their trust, proposed marriage, and then started trying to get access to their family businesses. One of them, a woman named Patricia, told us that Richard had actually gotten her to sign papers giving him partial ownership of her hotel before her brother figured out what was happening and stopped it. This was Richard's pattern, his business model. Find vulnerable women, women with money or family businesses, women with low self-esteem who couldn't believe someone like him would want them, make them fall in love, propose marriage, get access to their assets, and then either steal what he could and disappear, or marry them and divorce them for half. Claire was just his latest mark, and he'd almost succeeded. I compiled everything: the recording, the financial investigation, the statements from the other women, the evidence of his debts and his failed business, and I gave it all to Daniel. I want charges filed. I want him stopped before he crawls toward the next woman who thinks love is a prize she has to starve for. I want the law to say what I already know. This wasn't romance. It was fraud in a tuxedo. Daniel nodded like a man who has already sharpened every knife in his drawer. He took the recording, the financials, the statements, the screenshots of texts where Richard asked Claire about my corporate structure, just out of curiosity. The draft takeover papers we found cached on his laptop through a recovery tool. He said one sentence that slid into my bones like iron. "We have intent. The district attorney's office took the case after one listen. They didn't even finish the recording. The words were enough. The thought of sleeping with that fat pig already makes me sick. Do you know what it feels like to hear a prosecutor pause the audio there because her face has gone hard and quiet? It feels like justice finding its shoes. For 2 weeks, while subpoenas sprouted like weeds, I drifted through my house like a ghost that still had bills to pay. The orders for work kept coming in. Hartley's fine catering could not stop because my daughter's heart was smashed on a church floor. I cooked. I answered emails. I walked through tastings with a smile stretched so tight it squeaked. And every night I called Claire. Every night she didn't answer. I left voice messages like prayers I didn't believe in. Sweetheart, please drink water. I left soup on Jessica's porch. I will sit in my car on the curb until dawn if you want me to. I won't ring. I'll just be there. I love you. I love you. I love you. Silence is heavier than grief. It's a room with no oxygen. On day 14, my phone finally rang, and her name lit the screen. I answered so fast I almost dropped it. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then a sound came out of her. I will remember after my last breath, the sound of someone trying to speak through broken glass. Mom, she whispered, and the word came out little, like she was 6 again and asking if monsters were real. Can you come get me? I was in my car before the call disconnected. I didn't change out of flour-dusted clothes. I drove, with my hazards blinking like a confession all the way to Jessica's apartment. When Claire opened the door, I saw what 2 weeks of humiliation and shock do to a woman. Swollen eyes, a tremor in the mouth, 10 pounds she didn't mean to lose. She stood there in leggings and one of my old sweatshirts like she had crawled back into a safer decade. I'm sorry, she said, the words collapsing into my shoulder as I pulled her into me. I'm so sorry. I wanted to believe I was enough for him, and I blamed you for breaking the spell. I would break it again, I told her into her hair. I would break it louder. She didn't argue. She didn't defend him. She didn't pretend. She just cried until my sweatshirt was damp and then cried more, and I held her the way I did when she was 13 and came home after kids called her names, and I promised to be the wall they couldn't climb. We drove home. I made her tea and toast and sat her at the kitchen table where I had done budgets and homework and grief for 3 decades. When she could finally meet my eyes without drowning, I laid the file in front of her, clean, organized, brutal. The debts, the false financials, the previous fiancés, the takeover plan with bullet points like bullets. She read without sound, her pupils shrinking with every page. When she finished, she pressed her palms flat on the manila folder like she could pin the evil inside it. He was never going to love me, she said, almost calmly. He just picked me because I was easy to convince. No, I said, and my voice cut. He picked you because you are good, because you trust, because you love like a door that doesn't lock. That's what parasites look for. Warm-blooded people who believe promises. She nodded. Then she lifted her chin, the angle I used to see when she tried to tie her shoes by herself. What do? We press charges, I said. We don't hide. We don't protect his reputation with our silence. Okay, she whispered. Do it. And, can you help me find a therapist? I need to understand why I confused attention with love. Yes, I said. And something unclenched in my spine. Today. The next months were a grindstone. Statements. Depositions. A parade of words that turned love into evidence. The other women showed up: Patricia with her tidy blazer and steady eyes, and Eliza with a tremor that smoothed out once she started speaking. They told the same story with different wallpaper. The DA's team stacked the stories like bricks. Intent, pattern, financial motive, recorded confession. Richard's cousin flipped first. Men like him always do. He traded loyalty for a lighter sentence and handed over emails where they priced my life. On the morning of the preliminary hearing, I stood in a courthouse hallway that smells like hand sanitizer and paper dust. Claire squeezed my hand so hard my fingers tingled. Across from us, Richard arrived in a suit that tried to pretend this was a business meeting. His eyes skated over us like we were a light he didn't want on his face. For the first time, I saw what he really looked like without the costume. A man in an expensive jacket sewn from other people's hope. They played the recording. They played the worst minute. No one breathed. Then they played the rest. The laughter like metal scraping tile, the no prenup, the flip the business, the pop out a kid to seal the deal. His attorney objected so often the judge finally said, "Counselor, your client's voice is not hearsay." The case moved forward. I watched the machine of the law do what it's supposed to do when you feed it proof instead of tears. Months later, we were back for the trial, and the room was full reporters, curious strangers, people who recognized me from events and stared like I'd stepped off the front page of their phones. Father Kenneth sat in the second row with a rosary wound around his knuckles like he was anchoring a boat. I testified. I told the truth the way a mother does when her fear has burned off and left only bone. I described the hallway and the laughter and the sentence that branded itself into me. I said, I chose public humiliation because the alternative was a lifetime sentence for my daughter. I will not apologize for saving her with the only weapon Richard respected. Evidence. Claire testified too. She let them see the bruise the words left. She read parts of her vows into the record like a memorial for something that never lived. Patricia and Eliza testified. The cousin testified so carefully he sounded like a man walking across ice. Richard took the stand and tried to charm the jury. He called it locker room talk, banter, cold feet. He tried to paint me as a bitter, controlling mother who wouldn't let go. Then the prosecutor asked him to read his own text aloud. No prenup is golden, cow is gullible, mom's biz is the exit. He swallowed. He tried to smirk. The smirk broke. The verdict came back fast. Guilty on conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted exploitation. The judge's gavel sounded like a door closing on a long, ugly echo. 3 years in state custody. 5 years probation after. Mandatory restitution. The civil case followed like a shadow with teeth. $400,000 for costs and emotional damages. His parents paid it with faces like funerals and didn't look at us as they left. I didn't need them to. I didn't need anything from that family except distance. And the video, oh, the video. Someone had filmed the church, of course they had. The moment I stood, the moment the words spilled from the speaker like poison finally labeled, it went everywhere. 8 million views in a week. People argued in my inbox about whether I was a hero or a monster. I didn't answer. I was both. That's what it costs to pull your child out of a fire she thinks is a sunrise. After the trial, the quiet came back, but this time it didn't suffocate. It wrapped the house like a quilt. Claire moved home for a while. She slept. She ate slowly. She went to therapy with a woman named Dr. Singh who has the voice of a lake at dawn. She learned new words, boundaries, worth, hunger that isn't for food. I went to a few sessions too because love can calcify into control if you don't examine it. We practiced sentences that felt like lifting weights. No, I need time. That joke hurts me. I am not a project. I put her on payroll at Hartley's not as charity, not as a bandage, as a partner in training with a title that matched her work. She learned vendor management so fast my head spun. She could walk into a ballroom and fix a 4-hour problem in 4 minutes with a smile and a clipboard. Clients loved her. Staff adored her. She started running tastings like a conductor, tasting for flavor and listening for tone how a couple spoke to each other, whether a groom cut a bride off mid-sentence, whether a bride rolled her eyes when her mother ordered extra dessert. She had a radar now. Pain grows instruments in you. We reimagined the business together. I let go of jobs that paid well but bled us dry. We added what she called empowerment events, celebrations designed around what people actually value. No make yourself smaller for photos nonsense. We banned "she needs to slim down by June" talk in vendor meetings. We hired models of all sizes for our lookbooks. We gave a discount to couples who did premarital counseling because I would rather lose a booking than cater another pretty lie. Claire started speaking first in a small church basement to 10 women and a plate of cookies, then at bigger gatherings where microphones licked the air. She told the truth without flinching. She said, "He didn't break me. He exposed where I was already cracked." She said, "I thought love was a job. It's not. It's a home." She stood up in front of strangers and left them with a spine they could carry out the door. 6 months passed. She cut her hair shorter. She started running in the park at sunrise because she liked how the air tasted in her lungs, not because anyone demanded she shrink. She cooked with me and ate what we made without math in her eyes. She didn't weigh herself. She weighed her days. Joy, work, rest, laughter. The scale moved sometimes. She didn't report to it anymore. A year after the wedding that wasn't, I booked the Sterling Manor under a new name. Claire's Freedom Party. Same room, different vows. We invited everyone who had sat in those pews and watched us implode. Some didn't come. Most did. People who had hissed, "How could she?" into their champagne flutes, now pressed my hands and said, "I'm sorry. You were right." I nodded. Not magnanimous, just tired. Father Kenneth stood at the microphone again, but this time he blessed something that deserved it. A life rebuilt without permission from a liar. He said, "Love tells the truth even when it costs the room's approval." He looked at me when he said it. I stared back and didn't fall apart. Claire gave a speech that made the crystals sweat. "My mother loved me enough to be the villain so I wouldn't become the victim," she said, voice steady. "She broke my heart to save my life." Then she handed me a frame, our photo from years ago, our cheeks pressed together and flour on our faces after a long day baking for a fundraiser. The plaque at the bottom said, "To the mother who chose me over applause." I cried the way you cry when the body finally understands it can stop bracing. People clapped, Maria whooped, Daniel pretended he had allergies. The staff served food that tasted like relief. After the party, when the lights were low and the cleanup hum felt like purring, Claire told me she had been seeing someone, a therapist she met through the support group. Not her therapist, thank God, but a colleague who understood healing like an art form. His name is Aaron. He speaks slowly. He listens like nothing is more important than the sentence you haven't finished yet. He looks at my daughter the way an honest man looks at a sunrise he did not cause. I didn't interrogate. I didn't warn. I just said, "Bring him to Sunday supper." And when he came, he showed up with homemade bread and a quiet joke and a willingness to wash dishes. That's what love looks like in a kitchen. Not performance, participation. Business doubled in 18 months. Word travels when you nourish people instead of selling them hunger. Magazines called. We said yes to some, no to most. We were too busy feeding people who lived here to pose for people who didn't. Still, a reporter from a national women's magazine came to the shop one Tuesday and asked me what revenge tasted like. I said, "Lemon bars and breathing." As for Richard, he lives in the consequences he built. I don't visit the prison. Neither does Claire. I hear things because information finds the people it has already hurt. No visitors. Even his parents won't watch him shrug in orange. Inmates who saw the video on smuggled phones call him names he can't spin into charm. A job lined up on release. Moving boxes, not numbers. He wrote a letter to Claire full of apologies in a script that tried to look younger. She burned it in a coffee can on the patio and watched the paper turn to lace. I didn't stop her. Some flames are baptisms. Sometimes I still wake at 3 a.m. with the sentence in my head like an alarm. The thought of sleeping with that fat pig already makes me sick. I lie in the dark and let the fury empty out like rain from a gutter. Then I get up and walk through my house, past the framed photo, past the shelf of cookbooks with my handwriting in the margins, past the window where dawn comes like forgiveness whether you asked for it or not. I touch the back of the chair where I stood up in a church and made half the town hate me for 48 hours. I whisper to that chair, I would do it again. The chair, being wood, says nothing, but I can feel the grain answering, you already did. Here is what I learned, and what I will not stop saying until my voice gives out. Sometimes love is gentle. Sometimes it is a wall. If you are a mother and something in you howls at the edge of your child's joy, listen, investigate. Do not let manners talk you out of saving a life. If you are a daughter who thinks attention is the same as devotion, sit with someone who will remind you of the difference until you can hear your own heartbeat over the applause you're chasing. Pay attention to the way people speak when they think no one is listening. That is their native tongue. Believe it the first time. Build your life around the truth, not the costume. I know what people called me. Bitter, controlling, jealous. Fine. Call me the names you reserve for women who refuse to clap for their own erasure. I'll wear them like aprons. I've ruined better dresses than your insults. To every Richard Torres planning a wedding like a heist. The clock is ticking. Your charm is counterfeit. Somewhere out there is a woman like me who will drop a box in a hallway, bait you out with a smile, and record the sound of your greed. The internet will hear you. A courtroom will hear you. Your parents will hear you. And you will hear a door shut that you do not have a key for. To every mother who is afraid of being the villain, be it. Be the dragon at the door. Be the woman who stands up when the priest says, "Speak now," and speaks. Let them hate you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them write you out of the fairy tale. Then go home and set a place at the table for the day your child comes back with eyes that finally see. They will. Even if it takes longer than your heart thinks it can bear, they will. My name is Margaret Hartley. I stopped a wedding. I shattered a dream dressed in white. I pulled my daughter through a fire that would have looked like a honeymoon suite from the street. I will carry the sound of that sentence for the rest of my life, and I will not let it poison me. I distilled it into a warning, poured it into a cup, and handed it to the world. If my story hit you in the place you keep your fear, tell me where you're listening from. Like the video so it reaches the woman who is standing in a hallway right now with a box of champagne flutes in her hands and a decision in her throat. Subscribe if you want more truth that isn't pretty but saves lives. And remember this, the sweetest revenge isn't a verdict or a viral clip. It's watching the person you saved live the life that almost got stolen, and knowing you were brave enough to be hated on the way to their freedom.